gracious introduction and that wonderful presentation. Now I finally understand what AgeWell has signed up for after that, and I'm a bit worried. So thank you so much to everyone for coming to this event. It was so great to walk in and not only see people face to face, but to see all the people that we've seen on little screens for the past, 2+ years as we are pulling this initiative together. So before I get into anything, I just want to, all of you guys give yourselves a round of applause because you're all part of this as well as we move forward. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the next 25-30 minutes, I'm hoping that timer isn't for me that says I have 9 minutes and 29 seconds left, because I was like, mine sure wasn't that long, is really talk to you about the area of AgeTech. And when I was thinking about how to come about this, I will give some stats, some similar stats to Diane. Hopefully our stats align. But I really just want to kind of talk to you about, my perspective of someone who has been in this area for 25 years. I know you look at me and you say, there's no way this guy's been in this area for 25 years, but I have been. And really just kind of combine a little bit about what's happening in the area since AgeWell has been around and MedTech Plus has been around, and really where I think we need to be going, and again, to kind of pull it all together and why we're here. So why don't we get going here? So first off, just to repeat what Diane said, but kind of in a graphical form is, yeah, the world is getting old. We all know that, right? That's not a bad thing. As I like to say, if we're not aging, we're dead. So getting older is better than the alternative, obviously. Now, the key thing here on this map that I want you to notice is everything, that laser pointer doesn't work, every country in red is what is, go back one. Every country that is in red is considered a super aged country. That is, again, a country, as Diane said, where 20% of our population will be over the age of 65. Now, when we think about super aged countries, we always think about Japan, we think about China, other parts of Asia, and perhaps Europe. But if you see on this map, Canada is the only country in North America that will also be super aged. So this is not a problem from afar that we're looking at. It's not a problem that we're trying to solve for others. It's a problem we're trying to solve for ourselves. And not just our current demographic, but our future demographic and generations as well. So this is always a message I want to really make sure you hit home, that this is a Canadian problem that we also need to work with as we go forward. Now, also as Diane alluded to, we know we're all getting older. We know we have an aging population. We're seeing our healthcare systems not doing too well in our provinces. But there's another larger issue here. The number of people, that is family members, relatives, friends, are shrinking in terms of those who can actually provide care to their loved ones. Okay? And this is for a variety of reasons. We're seeing caregivers becoming younger and younger. In fact, we've met caregivers who are caring for their aging parents who are in their 20s. We see caregivers who are in that so-called sandwich generation where they're caring for their young children and their parents, and that's a situation that I'm in myself right now with my mother who has dementia and my father who has cancer. But we're also seeing a change in the family unit. It is not unheard of that there's the caregivers, the children, or whoever may be in Vancouver looking after their elderly parents here in Montreal. And the issue is, how do you do that? How do you provide care over that kind of distance? How do you provide care across different time zones? And as I think we all know, I'm preaching to the choir here, that technology can be one of those solutions. So in AgeWell and in MedTech Plus, I think they've also had the same philosophy, is that even if we have dementia, even if we have cancer, even if we have the so-called regular issues that may come as we age, we can all age well, even in the face of these diseases, impairments, and disabilities. And when we talk about aging well, we're talking about still being able to participate in your daily life, still being able to participate in your community, still being able to socialize with your friends and your family, and still going out to meet people. Now, obviously, there's no silver bullet that does all this. It's not just about technology, right? It's going to be multiple types of solutions and interventions that, when working all together, is going to help us to move this aspect forward and to help us achieve this goal of all of us aging well. Now, obviously, we are here talking about technology or age tech, as I'll talk about. And again, we're seeing growing interest in the role of technology. And the role of technology, whether off the shelf like this tablet or custom-made solutions like many of you are making in your own startups and companies and research labs, technology is showing that it can actually have a prominent place in helping us all age well. Some quick evidence, by no means is this a scientific study, but if you just do a quick search of technology and aging in PubMed, you see this exponential increase in the number of papers. Back in 1996, there was about 5 papers published. I was one of those. I remember going to my first conference presenting technology for people with dementia, and the first question I got is, why are you doing this? What's the point? They're all going to end up in long-term care anyway. But as you see, as we evolved as a society and our healthcare system evolved and we saw new technologies coming out, last year we were up to about 6,000 papers being published in this area. So from a research perspective, there is tremendous interest. There's tremendous interest not just from professors like myself, but also from the new generation. The number of trainees, the master's students, the PhD students who want to get involved in this area is tremendous. And not only do they want to get involved, they're going to tell you you can't bring those drinks in here. They've done it to everyone. I'll just save them the time of doing that. If there's a glass of water there, I'd love to take that. That's fantastic. So not only do these students want to get involved in research, oh, thank you so much. They also want to get involved in industry. They want to get involved in entrepreneurship. And so just my quick message here is for the entrepreneurs and startups in the room, the companies, don't be afraid to take these students on, even if it's for short periods of time. They will be the next generation, and we need to start to train them right away. As Diane also said, the economy is growing. We have the longevity economy that Diane spoke about, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just to put in graphical form what she mentioned, again, you see this, what was an exponential curve, kind of moving more linear, but still in a positive trend, that the longevity economy, that is seniors who are spending money on various types of solutions, is growing, and it will continue to grow around the world. Our goal is to get this growing like this in Canada as well, which I think we're well on our way to do. Now the question is, why is this happening? Why are we seeing these trends of age tech starting to take off and older people being more, having more purchasing power and more willing to do things? And that's for a few reasons. The first thing I think is there's a change in the views of older people. Again, if we talked about this 5 years ago, we'd always have the common line of, well, older people, they don't understand technology, they're not going to be able to figure this out. That's all BS. The number one consumer market for smartphones in the past 10 years are older people. And that's going to continue. AgeWell, a few years ago, we conducted a cross-Canada survey with about 2,000 people. And again, we saw some really interesting statistics. Almost 3/4 of those over 50 were confident using current technology. 3/4. Okay? 2/3 are willing to pay out of pocket for technology if it means they can stay in their own homes. This is really critical. We now have evidence that it doesn't have to be the healthcare systems purchasing things. It doesn't have to be the families, but the older people themselves are willing to do that. And finally, again, 2/3 of those over 50 believe that technology will help us to lessen the impacts of COVID, as Diane spoke about, and I'll talk about in a second, and help us move through this. Now, as Diane mentioned, far more eloquently than I will right now, never let a good crisis go to waste, as Sir Winston Churchill said. And this is the case with COVID. COVID has now placed this impetus on us to move forward with age tech. It has shown governments around the world, it has shown older people, it has shown long-term care home operators and community providers that technology can play a role to help across these various dimensions and others. And so this is something that we need to continue to take advantage of. COVID has been an awful, awful thing, continues to be an awful thing. We saw things in long-term care homes with older adults that I hope I never see again in my lifetime here. However, we need to keep this momentum rolling and take advantage of the fact that people are now seeing the role that technology can play. So, what is AgeTech? I'm sure you all know the definition, but I figured I should do something a little academic here, being an academic myself. So, I'm not going to read out these two definitions. What I want to get to is the bottom line. What is an AgeTech? Everything we look at, everything that we're using, that may help us today, whether it's our smartphone, whether it's our tablet, whether it's our smart watches, are technologies that are not just for people under the age 65. There's no magical fairy out there that as soon as you turn 65 say, poop, oh, now you're using AgeTech, no longer technology. Right? My Apple Watch doesn't become an AgeTech device once I turn 65. It's still my Apple Watch. And this is something I want us to think about moving forward. I'm not saying let's change the definition right now and throw out the word AgeTech, but something that we really need to remember. Thank you so much. It's wonderful here, the hospitality. Thank you. I now know why we're joined forces, because the team at MedTech Plus is top-notch. So this is a question I want us to think about moving forward over the years as we grow together as a family and a network. At what point do we just start realizing that technology is for everyone, and the technologies that you're developing, maybe for older people, really should be looking at a life course approach, right? As I said, we're all aging from the day we were born. And this more holistic approach is something that we need to start thinking about and start moving forward towards as a network. Now, who uses AgeTech? Again, this goes back to my previous stats of older people wanting to buy the technologies themselves and willing to. There's really kind of three classes we've seen in our work within AgeWell and within our new network. Obviously, they're purchased by older people. We're still seeing the trend of that they're being bought by other people on behalf of older people, right? So we're still seeing, the families, the sons, the daughters, whoever it may be, purchasing the technology and installing and maintaining it. And then we're also seeing this whole notion of being delivered to future older people as well. And this last point is critical, because who are we actually designing technology for right now? Is it the current demographic, or is it the demographic in 5 years from now when perhaps many of our technologies will be on the marketplace and successful, and at that point it's going to be a very different older adult demographic. They may have a much greater expectation, again, of what technology is. They may have a greater expectation of technology as part of their daily lives and their healthcare. They may have an expectation that's not called AgeTech anymore. So this is something we also need to consider as a network. I'm not saying let's ignore the current day older person, but we need to also have the right balance of looking at the current day market and the future market as well, because we don't want to find ourselves 5 years down the road saying, well, oh no, we developed for the wrong individual, it's not right anymore, we need to start from scratch. So it's a balance as a network and as a community that we need to find. So just very quickly, in case you're not aware, AgeWell, several years ago, we went out and we asked older people across Canada, what are the greatest challenges you have of growing older in Canada, but where technology can play an intervention. And we came up with these 8 challenge areas, and you'll see these 8 challenge areas throughout this new network as well in helping to drive forward and really provide a backbone of where we should be focusing our efforts. So I just really want to throw this up there. More information is on the AgeWell website. I encourage you to go download this document, take a read. It is bilingual, just in case you need that, and have a look at the different types of technologies that we discovered would be really critical in these 8 challenge areas. Now, just to show you, AgeTech is already happening. Several of these pictures you may recognize. They may be your own devices. But, we've done things such as FamilyNet, which was one of our early startups, which did a tablet-based socialization app. Rosa, which is a still prototype, I would say, in terms of a service delivery robot in the home. A really cool app that you take a picture of your hand and it helps to analyze whether you have arthritis. SteadyWare, one of our early great successes as a startup in this area, that helps to reduce tremor and Parkinson's. And then you see some other ones as well, TeneraCare, which I think is here or speaking shortly after me, so you'll hear more about that. So AgeTech is happening. Furthermore, we're starting to get some of these things out there. This is a picture of the AgeTech startup map, which is now also the Envisage startup map. And really the message here is, the good news is the pipeline is getting full. There are opportunities and options out there for products, for people. There's opportunities out there for investors to start to put their money in. And there's opportunities for us to learn about and to grow the age tech sector in Canada and really start to play catch up to other countries around the world. So I've given you all the good news. And I've talked about the strong potential for technology to support healthy, active aging. However, those who know me know that I always love to end my presentations on a negative note. I can only be positive for so long. So there is a however. And the however is, no matter all the work that we've done, which has been fantastic, we have been playing catch up around the world for 25, 30 years, and we've done a fantastic job. And because of all the work of people in this room and across the country, and in networks such as AgeWell and MedTech Plus, we have caught up, and we have now put Canada on the map. However, we're still missing the target with many of the ways that we're going about developing these technologies. We're still missing the target in terms of how do we involve older people and caregivers in the work that we do. We have tried to do it. We have gone well beyond what has been done in the past, but there's still more that can be happening, not just in bringing older people into the work, but also taking a holistic view. So because of this, and because of missing this target, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, many of the great technologies that are being developed in the research labs and the universities and the members of our network moving forward are still just having those technologies sit there. And please come to my lab in Toronto. You'll see many things just collecting dust that have not gone out there because of some of the errors and the changes that we did in the processes and our methodologies. So the question is, what do we need to do to go from this? So this is a bit of an extreme picture. The barren wasteland is the research world and the universities, and I can say this as a professor and a university administrator. And the nice grassy flower areas, that's where we want to get to, right? That's technologies in the hands of older people using age tech, our sector growing, companies like yourselves that you may have thriving and not just surviving, right? And becoming world leaders. So the question is, what do we need to do to get over this road? And the rest of this now is all my personal opinion, okay? So you can quote me, don't be writing papers on everything because there's no references here. This is all my own opinion. First of all, we need to be inspired, and you need to continue to be inspired every day, and that means working with older people. This is a picture of Robin and his wife, Diane. Robin was an engineer who I met about 25 years ago. It just was a chance meeting, and he's an engineer like myself, and we didn't talk about engineering things. He talked about his wife, Diane, who had early onset Alzheimer's, 52 years old, full-blown severe Alzheimer's. And he talked to me about, all the challenges of taking care of her and the embarrassment of having to stand with her in the washroom and give her prompts and cues of things to do. And during this conversation, he said, Alex, wouldn't it be cool if computers could do all this? And that's what started me on my journey 25 years ago. And I continue to speak to Robin. Unfortunately, his wife, Diane, passed away about 10 years ago. But I still keep in touch with Robin because you need to continue to have that inspiration. And that's really important for the network moving forward and for all of you that are involved, whether you're a company, a researcher, a student, whatever. Find that inspiration, talk to our older people, talk to the caregivers that will be involved in our network, and continue to be inspired by them because they're the ones that understand and know what is required. Next, we must understand. We must be empathetic. We must put our shoes in the people we are designing for to fully understand how technology can play a role in what we're doing wrong. This is me, August 31st, 2019. I fell down a cliff, I apologize for the graphic picture there of my naked leg in my Saks underwear. But this is me. I fell down a cliff, suffered a spinal cord injury. I was in ICU. I was in hospital for 3 months where I had to relearn to walk, everything else that I had to go with it. The, no. That's not the good part here. The funny part about this is I was a patient for 3 months in the same hospital that I was a researcher, where I held a research chair. And right away, the nurses and the staff there asked me, well, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a researcher here. And they're like, what do you mean you're a researcher here? I said, well, there's a research lab down in the basement that develops technologies to help people with spinal cord injury, stroke, mobility issues. And they're like, really? So right away, this made me go on this 3-month journey in the hospital thinking, what a crappy job we've done of knowledge translation. What a crappy job we've done of communication. And it was at that point that by putting myself in the shoes of, not just as a patient, but of the nurses and the therapists there, I started to understand from them in terms of how we should be talking with them, how we should be interacting with them. And the biggest thing I learned, and I'm actually trying to write a paper on this right now, is yes, we can follow all the integrated models of knowledge translation, et cetera, which are all great models, and there's researchers probably here who do KT work. But sometimes the best knowledge translation is sitting on the foot of the bed of the older adult you're working with and just talking to them and understanding what do they need. And it was this experience that really has reshaped my life as a researcher in terms of how to go about knowledge translation, communication, et cetera. So again, this is really critical. So we must have that empathetic approach in our network. Okay? And acknowledgement to Dr. Jennifer Boger and Megan Strickland, members of our network. Empathy is the experience of understanding the other person's thoughts, feelings, and conditions from their point of view. And it's amazing how many startups still come to my office and say, I got this great idea, here's the technology, and I say, who did you talk to? And they said, my grandmother, right? And that's the only point of view that they have. And so I encourage all of you that are involved in the development of technologies or testing of technologies or writing about that to be empathetic. We need to have an empathetic approach in our new network and our endeavor together. We must see the whole picture. The technology is not enough. Okay? I can build you the coolest robot possible, but if I don't understand how I'm going to deliver that robot into the homes of older people or into a care home, the service delivery model, and I don't understand the policy and the regulatory landscape of Health Canada and whether I have to get this approved as a medical device, then that robot isn't going anywhere. It's going to sit in my lab. And again, I have many examples of those types of projects. We want you all to be in that sweet spot, right in the middle of this Venn diagram. Okay? And we have people that can help you to do that in our network. We have researchers, we have policy experts, service delivery experts. Okay, whether they're PTs, OTs, SLPs, anyone else within the alliance community of care. So again, as a network, this is what we're here for, is to help everyone to get to that sweet spot and to get our work out there. We must communicate. Okay? Communication is critical in everything we do, and again, that's why I learned as being a patient in my own hospital. We don't listen enough. We don't analyze what we hear enough. We don't act on what we hear enough. We need to do this more and more and go over and over and over again until we get this right. Everyone's like, oh man, I don't want to be part of this network anymore. Right? They're giving me that look like, what do we got ourselves into? So, to finish off, hopefully I've convinced you that we're doing some great stuff. And again, I applaud you as a network and as a community for all the great work we've done to get Canada on the map finally. But we still need to do more work. We've made great strides, but we're not there yet. Furthermore, we don't have the time to be incremental anymore. And this is the problem with academics, right? We like to build on small findings over and over again so I can get all the publications I need. We can't do that anymore. We need to be different. We need to change our models. We need to change our thinking. We need to blow up the way things have been done in the past and put our own personal touch on this now as a new network moving forward. As I said, we need to be holistic about this approach. Again, it's not just about the technology, but everything else. And obviously, we need to communicate with our consumers and tell our stories over and over again to make sure people know what we're doing, that we're here, and that we're developing solutions to help. So, what does that mean for us? This is a hashtag I use all the time, networks matter, because I truly believe that. I love this quote from Mother Teresa. I can do things you cannot, you can do things I cannot, together we can do great things. This is the essence of envisage. I can never pronounce that. Envisage. I got it. This is why we're here. This is why we work so hard to bring ourselves together and to bring this community together. And with that, I thank you again for being part of this. I'm always happy to talk to people. I will be here all day, obviously, to meet and to chat with you, those who have not met so far. But I'm looking forward to great, great things between us. So thank you very much.